Now that is a shit ton of Megatouches. What have I gotten myself into? Yo, what's up everyone? It's been a long time since I've put out a video, and for good reason. Look, I have no space. I'm out of space, right? So yeah, I'm honestly quite happy with not having any more space, and I love all my games. So I figured I wouldn't have a project until I move out of here. And then this happens. And I end up falling into a deal for a buttload of Megatouches. And let me just back up. I have been looking for another Megatouch, mainly because I have some friends that would really like one. And so I told them, hey, I'll keep an eye out, right? I'll keep an eye open. I have a bunch of parts, in fact, this one, you'll probably remember, this is an Ion Evo that in way back in 2000, what was that, 21, a couple years ago. This one I got up and working. This one was sent to me by my buddy Dave, and I got it up and running, but in the shipping, the case is just destroyed. So I've been looking for just, hey, if I could just find a non-working one that just has a nice case, then I could get this one up and running. But that just hasn't happened. And so I've been keeping an eye out on the normal venues, Craigslist, Facebook, Marketplace even. And because typically these pop up fairly often. And that just wasn't happening. I'd been checking like once a week, fairly regularly, and just nothing. And I'm always looking for broken ones because I'm pretty good at fixing these up. I've pretty much seen every problem. And so what ended up happening here is a local vendor I got in touch with, and he had a pile of them, as you can see here. These are all of the non-working ones that he had. Those were the ones I was most interested in. But let me just run through what these are. So I ended up picking up all these as kind of a lot because he was giving them away for a very, very good price. It was a steal of a deal. Let's just put it that way. So I took all of these, even though I wasn't interested in all of them, to be fair. So these two here are Force EVOs. So older hardware, and to be frank, I really don't want to mess with them at all. I don't really have any interest in dealing with the older hardware anymore. And that's just because there's not a lot of value there. And although I'm sure I could get these up and running, all these have notes on them. So this one says screen issue ? This one says claims it burnt up or burns up. I don't know what that says there. But in any case, I'm sure I could get these up and running, but there's just no resale value in them. I'm not going to hold on to them. And honestly, I have a hard time recommending the older hardware just because you can get the Ions for a very reasonable price. So my plan with these is probably not to get them up and running, but to use them for parts, because the bezel, as you can see, even though these are black, the bezel is the same as the Ion, just black instead of silver. And now I can't confirm this yet because I haven't tried this, but I assume that the touch panels, that the monitors are identical. And all of these work. I assume that these work too. So my plan is to basically salvage parts from these, basically use them as scrap. So I'm going to pull the monitors out of these, maybe the power supplies, maybe the hard drives, I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided what I want to do with the case. Like maybe transfer these parts into one of these, but then, you can't really mount the joystick. So I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but I'm not too interested in these two. And then we got another Ion Aurora, which I'm excited about. I'm gonna do my best to get this one up and running. It's the exact same one as the one I fixed up a couple years ago. Love it. It's one of my favorite models by far. It's got the nice 19-inch screen. let's see, this one says, I love that, I love all these notes. Touchscreen controller error. So that's something that's probably fairly easy to fix, I'm hoping. It might just be a connection issue, who knows. But then he had 4 of the RX models, and I'm excited about these because I've never worked on one before. I've only ever played them in bars. And again, these use the same ion hardware as the Aurora, as the EVO. So I have tons of parts for all these. And that's kind of why I was excited to get 4 of them because, well, you can see back here, this one's shot. You can see the problem right there. There's your problem. The glass for the touchscreen broke. So I got that one for free. He's like, do you even want this? And I'm like, of course, it's got parts in there. So I've got 4 of these guys. Now I'm really hoping I can get at least 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. They're not all complete. At least 2 of them are complete, but I know like this one's missing a power supply. Not a huge deal, but one thing that's really cool about these I discovered upon moving these in here, these are significantly lighter than the EVOs, the Aurora, the Lead Edge. These are way lighter, and I can only theorize, but I'm guessing because of the profile. I mean, look at, they have a really low angle, and so people at bars are not pushing as horizontally. So I'm guessing, I mean, they're probably 15 to 20 pounds, I would guess, at least 15 to 20 pounds lighter than the EVOs and the Aurora. But, you know, they're not light by any means, but they're significantly lighter. And so that's my theory, is maybe the profile. The other really cool thing about them is that these only have one lock. Really easy access. And then the whole top just comes open. And look, you have really easy access to all the hardware. Unlike the Aurora, this is by far the most difficult game to work with because everything is so tightly, let's see here. Let me just pull this door off. Everything is so tightly packed in there, and the motherboard and everything is way down here. You have to pull this out. So it's a real pain in the ass to work on. You kind of have to take it all the way apart just to work on it. And so I'm excited that, I mean, you can just take a look. It's real easy to have access to everything. So that's really cool. And the funny thing is about these is I heard through a couple people, this is years and years ago, but I heard, you know, that these had heating issues, overheating problems, more than these other ones. And so I kind of steered clear of them, even though I didn't have access to a lot of them. These weren't a common model that was popping up for sale. It was mostly the EVOs, which you would think those would have the most heat problems, or the Aurora, right? But there's a lot of real estate in here. There's a lot of empty space, so I'm not sure I really buy into that. I guess time will tell. But yeah, so these are pretty cool. You have to hit this little latch down here in order to close this guy up. Oh, and that brings up another another point. Speaking of locks, none of these have locks. I'm kind of disappointed about that because the vendor I got these from pulled the locks. I'm guessing that they had them all keyed for, you know, their business, which is understandable. But the problem is that even though these use you know, kind of a standard cam lock, there's a lot of hardware that attaches to that lock to keep these latches closed. And I'm not sure that hardware is still inside these units. So if that's the case, then I'm gonna have to try to seek out locks for these. It's not the end of the world. I mean, if anything, you know, there's other ways to probably make some sort of makeshift way of keeping these closed. But that's really the only reason for the locks, especially if you've got these in your house. I mean, you're not worried about someone breaking into them. It's just to keep the game closed and tidy. So, I mean, like in the case of an arcade cabinet, you know, plenty of people just throw a back door on there with some screws if they, you know, if they don't have access to a lock. So not the end all be all, but yeah. So I'm really excited about these. I'm hoping to get a couple of them, at least 2 of them up and running, get the Aurora up and running. And then I'm not sure. I've got a lot of parts, and the reason why I've got this one all set to go here is that I know that all that hardware works. So plenty of parts to work with. So I'm pretty confident that I can get at least, you know, 2, 3, maybe 4 of these guys up and running, which will be a lot of fun. So the next order of business is now setting each one of these up, kind of diagnosing them, seeing if they're complete, what the issue is. But, you know, what gets me excited is stuff like this. It says, you know, no monitor, or even this one that's missing a power supply says, you know, monitor problem. Screen doesn't come up. All that stuff makes me excited because these are basically computers and they're set in the BIOS to boot up upon AC power. But what ends up happening is when these sit here dormant for a long time, that CMOS battery that tells the settings in the BIOS to do that gets reset. And so a lot of times what ends up happening is you turn the game on, the monitor either says no signal or you don't get anything, and maybe a fan turns on. So really that's just a couple of little settings, but we'll see if I get lucky here. Anyway, this is just a short video, but that's going to be my next order of business. Let's see if we can diagnose these, get a few of these up and running at least, and go from there. But yeah, another project on my hands despite having no space. Yay, yay, go me. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.